Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 4 of Press Breakers. I am your host, Daily Press Sports Editor, the big dog, Mitch Fosberg, here coming from you from beautiful, sunshiny downtown Escanaba. We got a big football episode for you today, and to kick things off, I got experienced something pretty cool over the week. So, practices for all fall sports up here in Michigan started on Monday, August 12th, and it's an exciting day. I remember when I was in high school back in those days, I would barely sleep. I remember my senior year, I took a bunch of NyQuil just to calm down, and it did nothing. And that first practice was kind of rough. I mean, it gets exciting. Escanaba football does something a little different, which I think is so cool. My sleep schedule disagrees with the coolness, but it is what it is. As soon as the clock hit midnight to start Monday, August 12th, they were right there in the practice field. They were going. For the third straight year, Escanaba had their midnight practice, and it's kind of been a cool tradition under head coach Billy Lamb, which he explains here.
When I first got hired, we were at a really low point a couple years ago. It was more of a, how do we kind of spark something back? I didn't do this when I was in high school. This wasn't something I got from my coach. It was, I was just looking at ideas of things people have done in the past, and I was like, what can really kind of jumpstart and spark some interest and get the kids kind of excited again. Mm-hmm. The kids, I kind of pitched it to the kids 2 years ago, and they were like, oh, that sounds super cool, and so I was like, right there, it's like, okay, I got to commit to it and make sure I hold my end of the bargain and make it happen. And, the last couple of years it's been really fun. It's a really good way to start the year,
Now, it's obviously hard to buy stock in a team during practice, but let me just tell you what I saw. So, Escanaba last year was 2-7. Turnover bug bit them pretty bad. Penalties in the worst times ever happened a lot. Ben Johnson, their dynamic running back now at Michigan Tech, suffered an ankle injury week 3, was never really the same. Still got first team All-UP honors, even though he finished just below 1,000 yards rushing, which is quite the feat up here, by the way, if you're not familiar with the All-UP selections and meetings and how that goes. They also lost Noah Gagne, middle linebacker, who I thought should have been at least an All-State honorable mention kid. He was a dream team middle linebacker. He got a couple votes for Defensive Player of the Year, who wound up going to Noah Johnson, not our Noah Johnson, who you hear later, but Noah Johnson out of Kingsford, who is, ironically enough, also at Michigan Tech, and we'll talk about Kingsford here in a little bit. But Eski's got some holes to fill. Looks like out the gate, we have a tandem of running backs. Looks like Caleb Gagne was one of them. I'm excited for him. At middle linebacker, looks like they got Brody Eisen, a sophomore, to fill Noah Gagne's spot. And Eisen's a tough kid. Actually, the first pitch he took of his first at-bat in high school baseball was a fastball that drilled him right in the beak or right in the face. Yeah, it was a rough couple days for the kid. But the kid's tough. I'm excited for him. He's a really good athlete, really good baseball player. Looks like he's going to be a pretty good linebacker, too, so excited to see there. Their linebacker caught my eye, Javon Stevenson. 6'4", he's a power forward on the basketball team, but as a linebacker spot or somewhere like a nickel or dime kind of packages, like a linebacker safety hybrid, kind of fits in Isaiah Simmons / Jabril Peppers kind of role. Oh, he's 6'4" with a wingspan. I swear it's like 6'8", 6'9", so trying to pass around that in the flats and the short areas and spots he covers is going to be tricky. I watched him pick off a pass of Nolan Bink, which we'll get to in a little bit, and he's also going to be probably their number one receiver. So, really good athlete there in Javon Stevenson. And then Nolan Bink, second year at quarterback, had a sophomore year last year where there were moments he looked phenomenal. Then there were moments where he looked like a sophomore playing on varsity. And that's not a bad thing. It's just growing pains happen naturally with every kid. He was an All-UP honorable mention kid last year. Somebody mentioned he looks like J.J. McCarthy out there, which thank God someone else said that, because that's exactly how I saw him last year. Athletic kid, not exactly, super thick and beefy, but not also like wiry and thin either. He's probably going to be a better hockey player as a defenseman, not going to lie. It's probably going to be his primary sport, but very mobile, very athletic, can make all the throws he needs. That was a nice deep ball that's getting better. But no, I'm excited for him, and so is Lamb. Here's what he said about the growth and development of his junior quarterback.
He's really well polished in terms of what we want him to do and everything, and he's starting to get into that spot where, it's for us as coaches, this is the first year where we've had a second-year guy in the system, and we've really kind of tailored it to his abilities because of just all the dynamic things he can do. We ask him to do a lot, and but he answers the bell. But he's really just grown in maturity of making reads and being smart with the football. And, the one thing that we had a big issue with just as a team was turnovers last year, and we've made it a goal, him and I, that we're going to protect the ball more this year and be smarter with everything. And he's been flying around all summer and having a good time.
It's kind of sneaky, too, having Nolan as a junior with the year under his belt, because every team outside of Escanaba in my coverage area right now is starting to do a quarterback. Park River Harris, Gladstone, Mid-Peninsula, Rapid River, Manistee, North Central, Carnado. They're all starting fresh at quarterback. But Escanaba's got the leg up with the returning quarterback, and he's only a junior. The kid's ceiling's high, and I'm so excited for it. But the overall takeaway with this team, this is a team that's going to be better than 2-7 last year. I will definitely say that. What that record is, it's going to be the fun part of the journey. So, at Kingsford and at Cadillac out of the gate, my gut's telling me, and it's not just the iffy food I have for lunch, it's kind of telling me they're going to split those 2 games on the road. They may beat Kingsford, then lose to Cadillac, or flip it vice versa. So they're 1-1 for their first home game. First home game is Petoskey, which the word around the block in the Big North conferences, that's the favorite. Then after that, it's home against Sault Ste. Marie and home against Grayling for a Saturday 4 o'clock game with Grayling, who was a playoff team last year. I think they go 2-1 in that stretch. What I'm hearing, Sault Ste. Marie is not quite the same team as they were last year. Lost some pretty good athletes. They were all UP also. Petoskey, again, the favorite in the Big North by everything I'm hearing. And then Grayling, well, we'll see. Grayling, Esky had him on the ropes last year, and they fumbled the red zone, and it was game over. Should be exciting Saturday afternoon game for us here. I'm excited for it. Then back-to-back road games at Marquette and at Gaylord. Marquette, I feel right now has a chance to be the best 11-player team in the UP based off what they got and what their coaching staff sits at. I could be wrong with that, but I'm kind of high up on Marquette. That's going to be a good one up there in Marquette. Then at Gaylord, Gaylord made a great run last year, but to my knowledge, they graduated a lot of pieces. They're kind of they're the question mark right now in the Big North, which makes that a little exciting. And then home against Alpena, that should be a win. And then at Gladstone, it's a coin flip. I don't care what the teams look like right now. Any rivalry game in my book is a coin flip. And that's at Marble Athletic Field in Gladstone. So that should be a fun one too. So right now, I definitely see 6-3, and you're knocking on the door for a playoff berth in Division 4 for Escanaba. But why am I so high on them? Well, let me take you back in a little pretend time machine 11 years ago. It started 2011, my junior year at Climax Scotts High School. Had a really good team, won district title, fell in regionals. It was a good squad, but the chemistry wasn't exactly quite there. We all got along great. There was no problem there. It's just, there was just maybe a little bit of butting heads. Nothing too insane. Nothing that deteriorated the season to a whole. But, kind of like how brothers tend to fight. That's how it went. My senior year in 2012 was kind of a little different. We were decimated with injuries. If your first name was Logan, which we had Logan the Killer, Logan Simmons, and Logan Wilcox, all 3 of them suffered season-ending, if not season-ruining knee injuries, which was insane. So many injuries. One of our running backs had concussion at one point, too. But through all that, we went 9-0. We were number 10 in the AP polls at the end of the year. We went 10-1, lost to Mendon in a district title game. It was a lot of fun that year. And the biggest reason why I think we had that much success, and the coach mentioned this too in Climax, and I feel this applies now to Escanaba, the chemistry is insane. Like, my senior year, the junior class below us, we got along really well. We had lunch every day with each other. We played a lot of sports together, whether it's baseball, golf, wrestling, you name it. We got along really well. And I see that with this group of seniors and juniors. When this junior class last year, sophomores, went undefeated in JV. Take that as you will. I don't buy a whole lot of stock into it, but it does show they know how to win. You can make that case. But honestly, the chemistry with this team right now is what makes it fun to watch. And that's what's going to make the ride and the journey of this season so much fun. Because they know the way the past 4 years have gone, they don't want that stink anymore. They want that gone. They want to get back the way Escanaba football has historically been. And I feel they have a chance to get there. And, the win-loss record, maybe 6-3, 5-4. But I think what fans are going to enjoy most about this is just the ride this team's going to go on. Because this team, week 1, compared to what they're going to look like week 9, it's going to be a huge difference. It's going to be different, but in a good way too. Like, this team's just going to get better because that chemistry, that camaraderie is there. And don't just take my word for it. I asked Bailey about that too.
Yeah, they're very close. They're a very close group. They play a lot of sports together. They have a lot of fun. The leaders here, the seniors that are stepping up as leaders they're more vocal than we've had in years past, and it's kind of rallied the troops a bit. And it's just been cleaner. These groups have had a lot of success over the last 5 years. In their JV freshmen and middle school years, and that's something we haven't had in a long time. And they know what it takes to win, and what the game's supposed to look like and feel, and so they kind of have that kind of edge coming in where they've kind of been there, done that, and now it's just putting it together on the big stage and really flowing with it.
So yeah, week 1 for Escanaba. August 29th at Kingsford. Should be a good one. The Flippers made a big run in the regionals last year, but they're now without UP Defensive Player of the Year and Noah Johnson, and UP Offensive Player of the Year and Mr. Football and Eli Rouse, who's now at Northern. So that's our high school chat. Let's get to our pro chat. All right, let's shift gears now from high school football to the rest of the football world. Joining me now, we met in episode 2, Stafford and Noah Johnson. Noah, how are you feeling today this wonderful Wednesday?
It's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me back, Big Dog. It's fair week, so we're staying busy, but I always have time to talk some sports with you.
Absolutely, man. I gotta say, fans can't see, listeners can't see this, but he's got a new pair of glasses that look just like Harry Carey. I am not making this up one bit. Which I guess for you as a Braves and Yankees fan is kind of an iffy thing, I guess, but...
Yeah, first time I've heard Harry Carey, I've been hearing Griswold from Family Vacation, but I guess I'll take Harry Carey.
Gotcha. Well, we got a full skill tree here. Kick us off, man. What we got first?
Well, first let's talk about drama in San Francisco. Brandon Ayuk. He has been the topic of a lot of trade conversation this offseason, and we've heard rumors from Pittsburgh to Cleveland to he doesn't want to go there to he doesn't want to go here. Well, the latest rumor is that Pittsburgh currently has a package in place to acquire Ayuk from the Niners. They're just waiting to see if Ayuk wants to go to Pittsburgh or if he's going to stay in San Francisco. So, Big Dog, what are your thoughts on this whole Ayuk saga?
So this is reminding me a lot of what we experienced last year with Jonathan Taylor, and we're in the final chapter of it. So just a quick refresher. There's a lot of similarities between Jonathan Taylor and Brandon Ayuk right now. Both Pro Bowl caliber players who feel they're their elite spot in their position. I think Jonathan Taylor has a better case than Brandon Ayuk does, but they're both important cogs in respective offenses, but in 2024, the way how their team's offenses are built, they're not like the main piece. So both sides wanted one deal. The team said other deal. They couldn't find middle ground whatsoever. So the team says, hey, go find a trade, go find an extension offer. We'll see what we can do. People kind of forget last year that there was a deal in place for Indianapolis to ship Jonathan Taylor off to the Green Bay Packers for Christian Watson and a couple high draft picks, but Green Bay wasn't going to cough up Watson. But Jonathan Taylor figured out his market. So the Colts and Taylor were able to hammer out an extension, and now he's there for basically the duration of Anthony Richardson's rookie deal. Now with Ayuk, it's the same situation. Ayuk wants one amount, the team says another. They can't even begin to locate middle ground. It was nuts. So San Francisco says, okay, fine. Explore a trade option. Just go see what your value is. We'll figure out from there. So New England threw out an offer. Ayuk didn't want that. There was a deal in place for the Browns, apparently, which included Amari Cooper and a couple picks. But Ayuk only wants to go to Pittsburgh. But now, it seems like San Francisco and Ayuk are working closer toward an extension. So it feels like they finally have common ground in the middle. It's what this whole exploiting trade option does. I think he stays in San Francisco, personally. I think with the Niners, the way they're built right now, they need that piece for at least a couple more years because that window is still open, but it's not quite as high up as it has been the past few seasons. And I don't even know what the price tag is going to be for Ayuk on a deal, especially for Pittsburgh, who has still a a lot of needs, especially a quarterback. You probably want one more defensive end. Your D-line's starting to age out. We'll see what happens with Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson. You still need a number one corner to go with Joey Porter Jr. You still need a strong safety to go with Mika Fitzpatrick. There's a lot of needs with Pittsburgh. Wide receiver is definitely one of them. I just don't think Ayuk is that number one guy who sits in that top tier echelon. I think he's second or that third tier echelon. He's not like a Justin Jefferson type. He's not a Tyreek Hill type. He's a non-Devontae Adams type. He could be number one receiver for a team, but he's not in that uber elite category where the guys are getting the $25, $30 million. I think he's more in the 20-25 range. I think he's in that second tier. But right now I see Ayuk stays with San Francisco. We'll see how well this ages here in the podcast.
All right, yeah. I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think he stays there. I think they've got a good winning culture in San Francisco, and I don't know that jumping ship to Pittsburgh is necessarily the right answer.
Also, right now, if you're a receiver, what team do you want to play on right now? Do you want to play in San Francisco or do you want to play in Pittsburgh?
Definitely San Francisco.
Thank you.
Definitely San Francisco.
And I have a terrible talent. I have so many jerseys. I'm a diehard Steeler fan. I'm not afraid to admit that. Trust me. San Francisco is the better option for a playmaker right now. Hands down. Next topic.
All right, moving on. We're gonna stay in the NFL. Some more stuff going on. Hassan Reddick of the Philadelphia Eagles was recently traded to the New York Jets, going to hang out with A-Rod up in New York. He was traded for a third-round pick. So let me get your thoughts on that, big dog. What do you take from this trade?
Well, the fact he hasn't even shown up to a practice or even shown up in the locker room yet and decides to roam the streets of China right now is saying something. The Jets right now were in what I like to call desperation mode, like a desperate mode. Like, a lot of jobs are on the line with this season, especially going on Rodgers and how last year went, how this current regime of front office personnel thought Zach Wilson would be the guy. Let that sink in for a second. He had one good throw in a pro day, and they just Googled eyeball over him, which I get it, that 2021 class only has one guy that's actually worth something in T-Law, and it was first overall. But Jets are kind of in a deep situation here. Like, Hassan Reddick could be such a valuable piece to that defense that already has a lot of playmakers on it, like rotation with him, Will McDonald, and there's one other guy that's slipped in my mind I can't think off the top of my head. But the Jets have a lot of talent on defense, and Hassan Reddick could be such a playmaker for that. Now, if for some reason they can't come out to a new deal or get something figured out, if I'm Brad Holmes, the Detroit Lions, I'm calling Joe Douglas right now and asking what he wants. And here's why. Detroit's secondary is super young. Total makeover with it. Brand new corners. Safeties are still in place. The best thing that can help you out there is a quality pass rush. And they have Aiden Hutchinson, which is awesome. They got some guys opposite of him. We'll see. James Houston fracturing his ankle at the beginning of last year did not help because he had a great rookie year in the second half. Had like 8 sacks in his final 8 games or something like that. Something ridiculous. But they're looking for that pass rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson right now. They have a good rotation of guys, but they're missing that number 2 guy. It's kind of like, well, you would get this. It's kind of like the Braves in the 90s. You have John Schmaltz, and you have Tom Glavine, but you need Greg Maddux. Mm-hmm. You need that one guy still, that one last guy. And I feel Reddick could be that guy for that defense, especially say, hey, bring him in, you commit 2 more years to him, let's say it's a 2-year, $40 million extension, you guarantee 32.5 of it, 20 of it, it's all guaranteed right now, 12.5 is guaranteed next year, or the year after that. If I'm Brett Holmes, I'm calling the phone right now. Because it seems right now that this contract situation right now is we're less than a month away from the season. It's getting out of control. Like, this should not be happening right now. But, hey, it's the Jets. What do we actually literally expect right now? I don't think a resolution happens for the Jets and Reddick. But, I'll eat crow if it actually does. I don't care. But, no, if I'm Detroit right now, I'm spamming Joe Douglas right now. I don't care if you have to call him phone, text, IM, DM, send mail, to have a carrier pigeon or 6 out there to send messages. If I'm the Detroit Lions, I want Hassan Reddick on that roster right now.
Yeah, I agree. Like you mentioned Hutchinson, but having Reddick and Hutchinson, that would just be scary. And Hutchinson's already scary just looking at him. I do want to. I hate to go off script, Big Dog, but you made me think of something. Talking about the Jets and talking about Aaron Rodgers, he said something the other day about preseason. I'm sure you've seen this. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it. And basically, part of the quote is preseason is not what it used to be. It's to see if young guys, once the lights go on and the pads go on and the tackling happens, if they can show up or if they don't. What's there to gain? Going out there and being back on the field in a situation where you can get hit. Now, obviously, he played, 6 snaps last year? 4 snaps?
Wait a second. There's 4 snaps and a 5th snap when his Achilles blew out. But still, anyway.
So 5 snaps. And I don't know. I just don't think a lot of, old school football heads would take kindly to that, saying, there's no point in doing it. I mean, you can certainly make comparisons, from preseason to regular season. Of course, it doesn't matter, but it does matter to some extent. But I'm just wondering, Big Dog, what you think, coming back and supposedly being the leader of a franchise that has been miserable and that is begging to win. How do you think teammates and fans are going to receive that in New York, New Jersey?
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. One, you look from Aaron Rodgers' perspective. He's 40, coming off a pretty wicked injury, making millions and millions of dollars, and the season rides on him. Do you think his comments make sense just from his perspective? Because I think they do, honestly. Like, I get it, you probably went out and get some reps in practice and whatnot, but for him to play in a preseason game right now with an offensive line that's still trying to get tinkered up, like, I get it for him wanting to wait until week 1, especially with the defense they have in front of him in San Francisco. So from that perspective, I get it. Some other ways, I get where he's coming from. Like, preseason right now, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago is different, like trying to get the team together, trying to figure out what works, what clicks, what doesn't. But the game has evolved so much to a point where right now it's basically trying to figure out your second string, your third string, and trying to figure out what rookies can fit in, maybe contribute out the gate for your first 8 weeks. The preseason has changed. I don't think it's for the worse or for the better. I think it's just the evolution of the NFL and what it's gone through. Yeah, does it kind of suck? Like, if I go to a Packers-Ravens game in a weekend or 2 and I don't see Jordan Love or Lamar Jackson, am I going to be totally upset about it? If I'm paying like $12 for a ticket, it's normally $120. I'm not going to be too upset because football is football no matter what. But it just gives teams an idea of what their depth pieces are going to look like, which, believe it or not, is not easy to do when you get to a game situation. You got that month to figure out exactly what you want for the rest of your roster. So from Ryder's perspective, yes, I get it. I get where he's coming from. To an extent, I kind of agree with him. But at the same time, I can see where the usual casual, Joe Dirt would be totally angry with it. But yeah, for me, it's just, I don't disagree with what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. I didn't think of it that way. Maybe I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan. I hate to say it.
I'm not either, but he is who he is.
Yeah, he is who he is, and he's great at what he does. I just thought maybe that comment just rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Anyhow, let's shift gears here, and we're still going to be talking about football, but we're going to be talking about the Big 18. I mean, the Big 10. Big. Is it the Big 18?
Yes, it's a Big 10. It's a Big 10, but there's 18. I mean, shoot. The ACC has Stanford, so I think it's all screwy now, right? The Atlantic Coastal Conference has 2 teams from the Pacific Coast, but anyway.
All right, and with that, college football is just around the corner. So let's get Big Dog's thoughts on the upcoming 2024 season. Big Dog?
Well, let's stick to the Big 12, or as the SEC stand called it, the Big 18. To me, it's such a weird year this year. I got one source from the Big 10. He feels it's going to be an Ohio State-Oregon Big 10 title game, which I'm all for. It'll be a rematch of their October 12th game, which is going to be absolutely insane. Of the 18 teams, I think 4 legit have a shot at actually getting to that title game and winning it. I think 1 is definitely Oregon. I mean, they were, one possession and 2 games away from beating Washington twice last year. They say Dylan Gabriel, Heisman caliber quarterback, might even win the sucker. Maybe the second Hawaiian quarterback Oregon gets to win the Heisman in the past 10, 15 years, which should be awesome. Only games I see, obviously, they got Ohio State at home. That's going to be huge. They're at Michigan. At Wisconsin on November 16th. That's going to be one I'm going to keep circled because my Big Ten source kind of mentioned to me, like, they were kind of having talks with some of the schools in the West Coast that are coming over last year. And some of these schools, if they can handle the physicality, some of these schools are absolutely shaking in their boots to walk into some of these schools, like the Wisconsins, the Iowas, the big corn-fed country kids with linemen that are like 6'6", 330, I just sling hay bales and newborn calves every day out on the farm. You know, it's going to be a tough adjustment for some of these schools, but I think if there's one newbie that has the best shot at it, it's Oregon. So I'll put ducks up there. Michigan, I think, is going to end up being about 10-2, 9-3 team, mainly because your schedule is absolute gauntlet. You're home against Texas week 2, home against USC. You got Michigan State at home, which is fun. You're home against Oregon, and then you're at Ohio State. Those are games I just mentioned. Those are all 50-50 coin flip games. Let's be really real. Michigan State's going to be better than last year. Michigan lost 18 kids to the draft last year. And even though I love Alex Orji at quarterback, yes, that's their quarterback. It's about to be Orji time in Ann Arbor. Can you believe it? Never thought we'd get this point in life, but here we are in 2024. Plus Donovan Edwards at running back, the West Bloomfield, former Mr. Football in the state of Michigan, still an absolute beast. Watch him get drafted in the first 100 picks in this upcoming draft, calling it right now. But I think Michigan drops 2 of those games I just listed. I think Texas gets them, and I think Oregon and Ohio State probably get them, one of those 2, just because I think they're a little further along. My deep sleeper is Penn State, solely because their schedule. Now, if I'm a Big Ten team, here's Penn State's schedule this year. At West Virginia, that's going to be a tough one. That's a rivalry game. Home against Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, and UCLA. You're about to LA to play at USC. It's a team that in real disarray right now, especially after Caleb Williams left. I don't know how their physicality is going to hold up in the trenches against the Penn State. That'll be tough. Then you're back in Wisconsin. Then you get the toughest game of the schedule. It's Ohio State, but you get them in Happy Valley, which the offense could have some sort of rhythm instead of just flatline at all last season. That game probably could have gone a little differently. Being now in Happy Valley, Drew Aller gets another year at quarterback. Then after that, you're home against Washington, who is definitely depleted without their coaching staff, essentially. So they're going to be in a tough spot. At Purdue, that's a trap game. At Minnesota, it's going to be tough. Then home against Maryland. I think, right, like Penn State could easily sneak in this Big Ten title game. Even with one loss to Ohio State, we'll talk about the Buckeyes here in a bit, there's still a chance, there's still a window for Penn State to get in this Big Ten title game. Penn State's my deep sleeper. The team I think that absolutely 100% should win it, and the team that people should put money on is Ohio State. And my Michigan fans are right now, I'll probably just turn off the episode. But when you look at Ohio State's situation right now, so many guys came back. They absolutely dominated in the transfer portal. Watch out for Caleb Downs at safety. His older brother's with the Colts right now as a wide receiver. Caleb Downs was a monster as a freshman at Alabama last year. I can't believe Ohio State forked over the NIL check to get him over. But hey, so be it. So many guys hit out of the portal. The schedule, though. Home against Akron, home against home against that school from Kalamazoo. That's a W and a M and a U. Home against Marshall, at Michigan State. Home against Iowa, which according to my source, they can get quarterback figured out. It'll be a lot better than last year offensively, because offense last couple years was literally like watching paint dry. It was just absolutely brutal. Just brutal. Anyway, at Oregon, that's going to be the first huge test. Home against Nebraska, who's supposed to be better. You got Dylan Raiola, who's Dominic Raiola's son. Lions fans remember him at center for 12 years. At Penn State, the game I mentioned, that could be a trap game for Ohio State. Home against Purdue, at Northwestern, home against Indiana. Don't be surprised if Indiana covers a spread in that game, because that's a trap game the week before the game I'm about to mention now. Then you got the game on November 30th against Michigan at home. Ohio State should win that game this year. They should. They need to. Because right now, let's say they walk into Oregon and they fall short. That's one loss. Let's just say Sharon Moore's boys come in that last weekend and somehow put a 4th straight loss on Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. 2 losses in the Big Ten. You're not going to Indy, and you're not going to Indy in December. You're done. Not only that, you're about to see a man lose his job. Because that rivalry game right there, that game, is where careers are made or where they go to die. So that's a game. The 2 games I have circled that are big tests. At Oregon, home against Michigan. If they can win both those games, they should be Big Ten champs. They should be national champions. And that is the expectation for Ohio State this year. This whole 3-game losing streak to Michigan. Ever since Ryan Day opened his mouth before COVID saying, hey, the next time we play him, we're going to put 100 on him. You haven't put 100 on Michigan in the last 3 games combined. Pretty sure Michigan's put 100 on you in those 3 games. It's all up on Ohio State now. My only big concern is the fact that some of these guys that got from the transfer portal or just sold a national title, they're not sold in that game. Because that's the game that has to be won. So right now, I think Oregon, Penn State, Big Ten title game. I think Oregon ends up winning that. Ohio State still gets in the playoff. Michigan still's on the outside. But that's kind of how I see the Big Ten going.
Thanks for that, big dog. Now let's get into, let's go back to the NFL. Let's talk about our top 10. And looking at your list here, I'm disappointed but not surprised to see the Falcons not on here.
What was the record the last 3 years? 7-10, 7-10, 7-10?
That would be correct. Yes, that would be correct. Well, we'll see. Sorry, guys, I have to put in my plug for Atlanta. But we'll see how that goes with Coach Raw and Kirk Cousins. But anyways, let's get into the NFL top 10. Big dog?
Yeah, so this is going to be a weekly thing for us here on the show. So I got 3 honorable mentions first. My number 11 team would be the Cincinnati Bengals. Still lost a lot through free agency. Still got some question marks about Joe Burrow's health. I want to see it first. Number 12 team would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Quit sleeping on this team.
The Bucs over the Falcons?
100%.
Oh, man.
I would take Baker Mayfield over Kirk Cousins any day of the week right now.
Oh, no.
Baker Mayfield wins games outside the 1 o'clock window.
Oh, no.
And then my last honorable mention team would be the Los Angeles Rams. I think defensively they're just so young, especially the D-line, having to replace Aaron Donald. I think second half of the year you see them really take off and get going. But first half of the year you might see them struggle a bit in the trenches defensively. But top 10. Number 10. I'm not the biggest fan of this team. And neither is sports reporter Adam Hinch. It's the one team he hates. As a matter of fact, he actually went to one of their games against Cincinnati back about 20 years ago. Had a sign that made TV. It said CBS. It says this team. Cleveland Browns suck. My number 10 team is Cleveland. Just because defensively they're so good. Even without Nick Chubb last year, whose knee kind of exploded on national TV week 2. They still found a way to sneak into playoffs. Yes, Houston kind of got them. But the Browns right now sit at number 10. I think it's fair. I think they could be a wild card team. So, number 10, Cleveland. Number 9, a team that surprised everybody in the AFC South last year, the Houston Texans. Now, number 9 may seem low, but I know sophomore slumps are legit. I like C.J. Stroud. I think he's still going to be a really good quarterback his entire career. I just wouldn't be surprised if his production takes a slight dip this year. That's the only thing. I'm trying to integrate Stephon Diggs in that receiving room. Knowing Stephon Diggs, how Stephon Diggs is, it could be a little bit of a headache. But number 9, I got the Houston Texans. Number 8, I'm not going to make a sound effect even though I could. The Miami Dolphins. Noah tried. No, it wasn't going to happen. No, Miami, I like a whole lot. Tyreek Hill's number 1 player in the NFL according to the players. Still so explosive on offense. Defensively, we'll see. I mean, having Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips both go down the middle of the year last year. Top 2 pass rushers hurt. But I love Chad Robinson in that defense now. I got Miami at 8. And I would have them winning their division, the AFC East. But number 7, I got the team I think is going to win it. Be the Buffalo Bills. I don't think they are an AFC title game team. I think they're a team that definitely wins the division, can get to the divisional round, the Final Four of the AFC, but they're not getting beyond that. They're just reloading right now. They lost so many of their key veterans, especially on defense, and a couple on offense. That hurts. Although Keon Coleman's going to be an absolute breakout star for the Bills, calling it now. And Dalton Kincaid's going to be a nice red zone target, too. But they lost one game in the regular season to a team on CBS. It's actually really fun. My number 6 team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, am I concerned that Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, both Hall of Fame players in the trenches, are now retired? Kind of alphas in those teams? I am a little bit, but they've done a good job of trying to replenish those spots. It's going to be weird now with Nick Sirianni, the drama with Jalen Hurts, how that's all going to go. Although the addition of Saquon Barkley definitely puts a smile on the faces of anybody who doesn't cheer for the Cowboys, Giants, or the Commanders. But I got Philly number 6. And number 5, I got their opponent week 1 down in Brazil. I got the Green Bay Packers, the youngest team in the NFL. Jordan Love has a new contract. I still want to see some things on defense. See if Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary both stay healthy all year. See how the new look secondary is, especially with Xavier McKinney now at safety. So I got Green Bay number 5. Number 4, got the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they also lost a couple pieces, lost some guys to their coaching staff. But as long as you have Lamar Jackson on your offense, you're going to be competing for AFC titles every year. I don't care who you are. They still got so many pieces in that team last year. That defense is still going to be so dirty. I think Trenton Simpson's going to fit in nicely, replacing Patrick Queen to go alongside Roquan Smith in that 3-4. And plus, Justin Matabuke got a pretty nice little penny for an extension. So I got Baltimore at 4. Number 3, I never thought I'd have this team this high in my lifetime. I got the Detroit Lions at number 3.
Whoop, whoop.
I mean, this team was, a couple possessions, a couple fourth down drops from making the Super Bowl last year. And they still have a lot of pieces back. I think the secondary got better. I think offensive line got better with Kevin Zeidler now at right guard and shifting Graham Glasgow to left guard. Offensive line is awesome. I think Jameson Williams is going to explode this year offensively. He's the deep threat they've been needing for a long time. Who the number 3 receiver is, to be seen. We'll figure it out at some point. Running game is still solid. So I'm Detroit at 3. Number 2, San Francisco, I think for obvious reasons. I don't need to explain a whole lot. Once they figure out the overtime rules in the playoffs, they'll be just fine. They'll be just fine, because I kind of cost them last year. To the team I had number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. Need I say anything else? I don't need to explain a whole lot with the Chiefs being number 1. Do I?
No, I mean that's obvious. It's Kansas City. That's what we're saying at this point. It's Kansas City, kind of like how you used to say it's New England. It's Kansas City.
Yeah, which is funny because all the quarterbacks I mentioned, there's only one that's undefeated right now against Patrick Mahomes, and that's Jared Goff. It's your fun fact of the day for you. 2-0, baby. That epic Monday night game about 5-6 years ago, and then week 1 this last season. Kind of weird thought, huh? The only quarterback that can hang with Mahomes is sitting in Detroit, and they have him as a quarterback that's not elite because he's not mobile. Can you believe that?
It's wild. What a difference a few years makes.
Gotcha. So you really hired your Falcons this year, huh?
Oh, I'm just hopeful. Like I am every year, and I just think I was never a big supporter of the hiring of Arthur Smith. I just didn't think he fit in. He wanted to bring his scheme from Tennessee over, and it just didn't work. But I really like Coach Raw. I know some people were really confused by their draft in Penix, but, now I think you have 2 elite quarterbacks in your locker room, so you have some depth. I think the NFC South, and thank you for letting me talk about this, I think it's a very winnable division. It has been winnable for years.
It's wide open like a pair of barn doors in a windstorm.
That's right. I do disagree with you. I think that Atlanta's better than Tampa, but we'll just have to wait until they get on the field to see if I'm right.
I'll have to put a little wager on that, don't we? Yeah. We're going to do something.
Yeah, we'll revisit that.
Gotcha. Well, this wraps up episode 4, a big football talk episode. Join us back next week. We'll get back to our normal kind of format, as you call it. We're still earning the first 10 episodes. We're going to try and experiment some things. Some things are going to work awesome. Some things are going to blow up in our face terribly. But I don't think this one blew up in our face. I think this one's a fun little one to do. So, yeah. So until we talk again, I'm your host, the Big Dog Mitch Fosberg. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, keep your stick in the ice.